Hi guys, welcome back to Annie Narrates. Here we review stories that beautiful people like yourselves post on the internet. We got 3 stories for you today. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for revealing to my dad's wife the real reason why me and him were never close? My dad practically gave me up to his sister from the moment I, 27 male, was born. My mom died when she was giving birth to me, and my aunt told me he never recovered from that because he blamed me for her dying. It hurt a lot as a kid that at family events, he would ignore my existence. When I was a little older, he got more vocal about me quote-unquote killing her, and he can't stand to look at my face. You can imagine the amount of therapy that put me in. I used to go to church crying because I was scared about going to hell for doing that to my mom. That's how much his words effed me up. But the shitty part was that I never stopped trying to be accepted by him. After my high school graduation, he told me to never bother him again since he legally has no obligation to me anymore, since he was sending my own money to take care of me. Around that time is when I finally started accepting that reality, so from there, we moved on with our lives. My aunt doesn't talk to me about him. Sometimes my grandparents do, and that's how I found out he got married. They were mad he didn't invite me to their wedding, but to me it didn't matter because we're not close. But it was his wife who wanted to meet me. It's the first time ever that he wants to make contact, and it was to pretty much say she wants me on their life. She doesn't know the real reason about why we're estranged. He asked me to please not say anything, and maybe this could be a way to reconcile after all. But he was only doing it for her. That much was clear when we talked. I never said I would be. He still insisted on us meeting at their place because she really wanted to meet me. All she thinks is we were estranged for not getting along in my teenage years, going to college and losing touch because of quote-unquote life stuff. It pissed me off that he played it off as just not talking for petty reasons. Meanwhile, the actual reason damaged me for years. I told her the truth, everything he said to me, that he was never a parent to me. That was all my aunt. It was definitely a shock to her. The outcome was a disaster. Everyone has heard about this now. My grandmas in particular told me that she understands my anger, but this was his chance finding someone since losing my mom, and now it's been put in jeopardy. My dad is devastated. They think that it was going too far to ruin his marriage that way, when he was willing to include me in their lives, which could have been the start of our relationship. And they say not only did I ruin that, but also possibly wrecked his marriage. She doesn't agree at all with what he did, and it could have been avoided if I didn't say anything. For me, it was hard not to tell the truth after the lies made it seem like it was nothing serious. I could not ignore what happened after what it did. I don't know if it was the right call since it put their whole marriage at risk after all. Dude, not the a-hole. Your dad is a grade A double cheese a-hole from hell with a special topping of a-hole served with an a-hole sauce. He deserves every bit of what happened to his second marriage because he presented himself as a different person than he is. I'm so sorry you had to go through this. I wish you strength, and may you find more people who love you unconditionally. Reply, thank you, and don't worry, I have. My aunt has been the best parent for me, and she always tried to shield me from his shit as much as possible. I don't know if I would have made it without her supporting me. Not the a-hole. Saying you lost touch due to tumultuous times as a teenager and distance in college is making the fault of your estrangement mutual. It was not mutual. He lashed out with horrifying, inaccurate, and traumatizing language throughout your childhood and abandoned you immediately after birth. He's absolutely deserving of every complication his torment of you brings him. If he could not raise you or treat you with respect, he should have never associated with you. His wife was owed the truth because your trauma and abandonment were perpetuated up to and throughout their wedding. He was not just someone who couldn't raise their child due to his own trauma. He created trauma. He could have found love long ago if he wasn't so hard-hearted. Not the a-hole. He should have been honest with his new love about his abandonment. That is a serious honesty fail. And how did he think you two were going to reconcile without her finding out, when he can't fill in the blanks in any stories from her childhood, when there are no shared memories, no common experiences? She'd have to be dumber than a bag of hammers to not figure out that this was not lining up with what she'd been led to believe. Words cannot express how much it meant to me to get so much love from my last post. Everyone who supported me, not just my actions, but also acknowledged the hurt. To all the sweet internet moms who commented and DM'd me. Y'all know how to make someone feel loved, and even by total strangers. Since so many people wanted an update, here it is. It's a little heavy, and for a couple of days. I needed some time to process it and do some crying. They're splitting up. Heard it first from my grandma, then from his wife. Or, I guess, ex at this point. She was legit crying on the phone when she called me to tell me sorry for putting me in that position. She and my dad had a longer conversation where he told her everything, so she made the decision she couldn't stay with someone like him. And she wanted me to know how disgusted she was. Also to tell me thanks, which is something I really needed to hear. My dad is who he is, yeah, but regardless, two people splitting their marriage because of what you said is a hard thing not to feel guilty about. This lady is heartbroken going through divorce just a few months after getting married, and she wanted to make the time to reassure someone else that they made the right choice. Unexpectedly though, my dad wanted us to talk yesterday too. My girlfriend again didn't want me to go. Trust me, I get her point. She's the one who didn't want me having dinner with them in the first place. For one thing, we didn't know what he wanted to talk about, and what would that do to my mental health? It was probably a bad risk to take, but I met with him. And yeah, I should listen to my girlfriend more when it comes to this stuff. First time in my life, I think we had a conversation about mom, how much he loved her, them being happy and excited about having a family. But then she died, and he told me even if it's wrong, he can't ever blame me because simply, if I hadn't been born, she would still be here. He's only sorry for not completely staying away from me and saying horrible things growing up. While he was not saying this to be malicious since he appeared sincere, it was still an ouch for me. In the end, we decided having a relationship with each other was never gonna happen and said goodbye. He at least apologized for trying to put me in that position. The first good thing he ever did was tell me what happened with his wife wasn't my fault. Then I just went home and cried, had my day to process, a short therapy session, and support from both my aunt and girlfriend to get me through. The rest of my family is leaving me alone at least, so glad that in the end it was resolved. Not a totally happy ending, I know, but in the end, it's better this way. You gave that woman the best possible gift she could ever have, honesty. Something that she clearly didn't get from her own husband, which is the second tragedy in all this. The truth of what happened would have eventually come out at some point, so the best thing for you and for her was what happened when it happened. Live in the light and love well. You deserve all of life's blessings. OP, I'm sorry you were given such a spiteful man as your dad. His grief may have started how he treated you. His spitefulness and overall anger have clouded his judgment. You're not responsible for his marriage dissolution. Only his actions are the culprit. The one thing you can see as the light at the end of the tunnel is that you now know that he knows that he is responsible. His acknowledgement and respect are no longer warranted. So why would you associate with him outside of being your sperm donor? Find your own family that you chose. I have done that when I have officially cut my dad out of my life. Surround yourself with worthy people who love you. OP, you telling the truth was just a catalyst for the divorce. His ex-wife sounds like a pretty nice lady, so I imagine that she confronted him about his behavior and things went south when he doubled down. They split up pretty fast, so it's likely that there were a lot of red flags before she was even aware of your existence. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for deciding not to let my husband into the delivery room? I, 29 female, and my husband, 30 male, have been together for 8 years. I am now 8 months pregnant, almost 9 with a girl. In my husband's family, there is a tradition of naming a baby before it's born. The name is embroidered onto a blanket that has been passed down from generation to generation, and the baby is wrapped in the blanket when it's born. I'm trying to come up with a new name that we both like, but some of the names he suggests do not resonate with me. My husband has been getting annoyed with me lately and telling me to just pick a name for the baby. As his grandmother's name was Beatrice, he wants to name her that, but I just don't like it. I wanted to have a list of names so that when I see her, I can name her after what I think it's appropriate. Although it can sound odd, I wanted to see her before naming her, but have decided not to so that he can please his family. In honor of my late sister, I want to name her Jessica. That was her name before she passed away from a heart attack. It means a lot to me, but I hadn't told him that particular name because I didn't want to hear any insults about it. Every time I suggest a name, he'll attack it, calling it ugly in a variety of ways. Today, his mother was pressuring me to suggest a name, and I just blurted out the name Jessica. After a pause and a laugh, she said that it was a name for a large girl, and it was a very unsuitable name. She went on to ask me if I wanted the baby to be ugly and if I was trying to ruin its life before it was ever born. Initially, I was overwhelmed with anger and asked her to stop talking, more harshly than I should have, as she did not have the right to imply others are ugly when she herself is no Beyonce. Annoyed, she told me to leave her house. Not wanting to cause any further argument, I left, and when I returned home, my husband explained to me that he was extremely disappointed in my actions and that he couldn't look at me. As he is close with his sister, he struggled with his frustrations with her, which she then did to her mother. The next day, she was at my doorstep and told me that she decided on a name, and then said my decor was tacky. She said that she was naming the baby Connie after her mother. It was a name neither I nor my husband picked, and wouldn't cause an argument between us. I told her no and asked her to leave, and eventually she did, but not after some insults were issued to me. I asked my hubby about it, and he said I have no right to speak about any of this, as I also have not been open to the names that he suggests. He then said that I was incredibly selfish and said I should go. I packed my things, then went to my older sister's house. She was fuming at my husband and how they insulted our younger sister's name. He's been trying to contact me for a few days now, apologizing, but I don't want to speak to him. I've also decided that I'm not telling his family when I go into labor, and if I must, I am not allowing them anywhere near me while I am birthing the child. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This family sounds terrible. I don't understand how you've lasted 8 years interacting with them. I can't look at you. Yeah, I'd be feeling like, good, you no longer have to. It sounds like there's not going to be any common ground on the naming thing. Not that it's my place at all, but one possible olive branch might be naming her Jessica Beatrix, which is just cooler than Beatrice, in my opinion. With apologies to folks whose parents didn't opt for the name ending in X. Then, if the family wants to call her by her middle name, they can. And you can honor your sister in a beautiful way. Reply: that's actually really gorgeous. I might actually name her that. Not the a-hole, but seriously, how long of a tradition can it be of naming a baby before it's born? Sonograms that determine the baby's sex haven't really been around for multiple generations, so this quote-unquote tradition of naming the baby before it's born seems a bit made up. Also, sometimes they are in fact wrong, so embroidering a name into a blanket before the baby is even born. Usually I'm all for the father being allowed in the delivery room, but he kicked his very pregnant partner out of their house over a disagreement about the baby's name. So yes, don't tell them when you go into labor, and don't let any of that stress into your delivery room. Jessica is a lovely name, I have known Jessicas of all sizes. That comment was really mean and insulting of a name you obviously want for your baby. Not the a-hole, and like others have said, the fact that he kicked his very pregnant fiancée/wife out of the house and is siding with his family should be a house-sized red flag of what is to come in your marriage and the future of any parenting decisions you make. First off, hello, and thank you all for the support. I have been getting quite a few DMs checking up on me and my daughter, asking for an update, and just genuine kindness. I gave birth to my child 6 days ago, and she could not be more healthy. She was born 2.8 kilograms, and I named her Jessica Beatrix. She's quite a vocal baby. I haven't had much time to sleep, as most don't with newborns, so I'm going to make this quick, though I will be answering any questions you guys have. My husband and I are unfortunately yet fortunately going to get a divorce, and he was not in the delivery room during my birth. I made sure to inform the staff about my situation, and they handled it amazingly. He didn't show up, luckily, as he was not aware I was in labor, but I have told him now, and he's met her. He's still very annoyed at me, and his in-laws are livid, but I'm going to ignore it as much as possible and focus on Jess. What a lovely name. Sidebar: the number of women who divorce their husbands because of how useless or horrendous they are during pregnancy is astounding. I've read like 10 of them here in the past year. Men really show their real selves when they think that they have locked you down and you can't leave, isn't it? A gorgeous and fitting name. Congratulations. I can't imagine having that kind of headache towards the end of pregnancy. It makes my heart hurt, to be honest. I just hope in postpartum your soon-to-be ex-husband gets a grip and learns to be a supportive co-parent. Enjoy the beautiful newborn chaos, OP. I wish you all the best and the brightest of futures. Guys, if you're enjoying this video so far and you want to be an a-hole to the like button, when they're finished up rocking their child to sleep, burst in the room with a couple of maracas and just wake that sucker up. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for being hurt that my wife won't allow me to see the birth of our baby and asking for some space? My wife is 8 months pregnant with our first kid, and she has been finalizing her birth plan. She included me in the process, and I did my best to research and understand it. I went with her to see various doulas, picked a hospital together, established emergency plans, and so forth. I assumed I would be there for the birth, but she told me she didn't want me to see my daughter being born. She only wants her mother there, and I could only come in once it's done to see the baby. It hurt like hell, because I was obviously very excited about it. I asked why, and she just said that she'd be more comfortable that way. I said, okay. I told her that I'll let her do whatever makes her comfortable, and I'll be on board with it, but that I'm very hurt and I will need some space for a few days to take it in. I slept in the guest room and left before she woke up for work, and she's been blowing up my phone with texts about how it's unfair to punish her for doing what's best for her baby. She called and she was crying and telling me that I'm putting so much stress on a pregnant woman for no reason, and that I'm an a-hole for that. I don't think needing space for a few days is wrong of me, and I'm just asking her to let me take in what's happening. I can't pretend to be happy about missing the birth of our baby. She's so angry. I'm wondering if I'm being a dick. Edit. No COVID restrictions for us. Second edit. No, we're not the couple from the other post. My wife works from home. I don't work 14 hours, and I was there for every appointment since the beginning. Not the a-hole. She is allowed to choose whoever she wants in the room, and you're allowed to take a day to sort your feelings. You didn't abandon her. You took space to organize your thoughts. Sometimes it's the best to be quiet for a bit instead of saying something mean or not thought out. I'm wondering if she's psyched herself out and is worried that the blood, moaning, possible pooping, and all that will turn you off. Some women think, he can't see me like this. I'm a mom of 2, and I didn't care who saw me like that. I just wanted my kids healthy and out. Edit. I do mean not the a-hole. Her blowing up his phone and calling him an a-hole is uncalled for. I have been pregnant twice and birthed twice. Pregnancy is not an excuse to call your partner names and blow their phone up. He said he needed space and time to collect his thoughts. He didn't leave the family home. He didn't run to his parents. He didn't call an ex. He slept in an extra room and went to work. Not the a-hole. You're allowed space. But I want to add this. My husband was told from so many people to not be there for the birth or quote-unquote look because it will ruin sex for him forever. So he was a little worried. He was there, but he made a point of not looking for the first one. The second one, things changed really fast, and he had to run back to the room as fast as possible to be there and came in just as I was delivering. And he said he saw everything, and it wasn't that bad. My point is, it's possible maybe some people are feeding your wife these same stories and it's made her insecure and worried. There's a lot of pressure on women to always remain sexy for their husbands. Maybe ask her if she's insecure. I don't know, just some thoughts. NaH. She made a choice she was comfortable with. That's fine. You are understandably hurt by this. Seeing your child be born is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's also okay. Sometimes we need to take ourselves out of a situation to avoid escalation. Neither of you are the a-holes for your feelings. Thank you all for your input and advice. My wife had the baby and they're both healthy. I asked her on her due date if she still didn't want me to be there, and she said she wasn't sure. She was very stressed during labor, and I could tell that she was really anxious, so I did my best to comfort her and didn't ask. She did ask me to leave when it was time to push, and I came back when our daughter was born. I didn't catch her, but I got to cut the cord and I held her first, which I'm very grateful for. Things were okay with my wife for a while until she dismissed how I felt about missing the birth and said that I was making a big deal out of a couple of minutes. I then found out the reason she excluded me was that she was scared I would stop being attracted to her. I kinda lost it and I regret it, but I was sleep deprived and told her that I was disappointed in her as a mother, and she put her vanity before our kid and before me. My wife then asked for marriage counseling. We're on a waiting list for our first appointment. We've been very cold towards one another when we're alone, and we will probably fight soon again. I know it's not the best way to be when we have a newborn, but I can't help but blame her for this situation. I will be going back to work soon, so I'm hoping the distance work gives me from her will help me calm down and gather the strength to be more mature about it all. Wife and I separated for a couple of months, but decided to work on our marriage. Bigger issues rose to the surface in marriage counseling, and wife did apologize for keeping me out of the delivery room, although she affirmed in the same sentence that if we have a second child, she would ask me to stay outside again. She just will not trust me to not lose attraction to her. I had never realized how just deeply insecure she is about her looks and how it affects her every part of her daily life. She's a pretty woman and she's always acted very confident, but it was mostly a facade that completely crumbled with the pregnancy. We ran into some issues with breastfeeding related to that, where she would eat very little to lose the pregnancy weight, and it caused her to produce less milk, consequently stressing her and the baby out more. I begged her to postpone her diet until our baby is a little older, but it was so important for her to lose weight first. I tried supporting her, but I was going through my own struggles, and I couldn't understand how she could put that over the health of our baby. We're determined to make our marriage work, and I'm going to do my best to understand her struggles with self-image. I've come to accept that seeing the birth of any child I have with her will not be possible. Wife is not the a-hole. She probably heard stories of men being creeped out and losing interest in the wife for a while. A friend of mine witnessed a C-section and was totally freaked out by seeing the layers being cut and seeing the quote-unquote inside of his wife. They had a dead bedroom for some 6 months until he got over that. Look, I'm a woman. Once I saw a video of a birth with the baby crowning and was absolutely terrified. So probably wife didn't want to be seen in that state, and you should respect her. Listen, men contribute with and loving support during pregnancy. Women deal with pain, discomfort, A changed body forever. Breastfeeding. So give her a break and respect her wishes of all times during birth. Look, only one person has any right to decide who is in the hospital room during their medical procedure, and that is the person having the procedure, your wife. Alright guys, that was it for today's stories. Thank you very much for listening. Please go ahead and smash that like button for me, and subscribe for more stories. Thank you again guys. We will be seeing you in the next one.